The Stoic secret to stop worrying, accepting you control nothing. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a vast ocean. The waves crash in rhythm, the wind howls without restraint, and the sky above shifts from blue to grey without asking your permission. Now ask yourself, do you control any of it? The weather, the tides, the vastness, the chaos? No. And yet, we live our lives as if we are the master of external events, as if the world is waiting for our approval before it turns. That illusion that we control what we do not is the root of our suffering. The Stoics, those ancient philosophers who lived over 2,000 years ago, knew this. They knew that true peace, real freedom, can only be found when we stop trying to control what isn't ours to control. But here's the hard part: most of us don't even realize we're doing it. We worry about things we can't change. We stress over people's opinions, over outcomes we can't predict, over the past that's already happened, and the future that hasn't even arrived. It's like trying to grip water with your bare hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher, said this: "Some things are up to us, and some are not." That's it. That's the Stoic secret, hidden in plain sight. The path to peace is not in controlling more, but in surrendering to what we can't control and mastering what we can: our thoughts, our reactions, and our choices. But let's be honest, this is easier said than done. You and I, we've been conditioned to believe we should always fix things, solve problems, fight back. If something goes wrong, we think, what did I do wrong? If someone rejects us, we believe, I must be the problem. If life doesn't go according to plan, we panic, what now? But pause. What if the goal isn't to win every battle, but to stop fighting battles that were never ours to begin with? What if the real power lies in letting go? Now, I'm not saying we should be passive. Stoicism isn't about being indifferent or numb. It's about radical clarity, knowing the difference between what's ours and what isn't. And this clarity, it's freedom. Think of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who could have had anything, done anything. He faced war, betrayal, and plague. But in his private journal, he wrote not about commanding armies or conquering lands, but about commanding himself. But he asked, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the Stoic secret. That's what they knew. And yet, in our modern world, we've forgotten it.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
We wake up and scroll through news we can't change, compare ourselves to lives we don't live, stress about futures we can't control. We let our peace be hijacked by traffic, by headlines, by what someone said on the internet. But what if we didn't? What if we truly accepted that we control nothing except ourselves? Wouldn't life be lighter? Wouldn't we breathe easier? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly let go of something that was hurting you, simply because you realized it was outside your control? Think about that moment. Did you feel weaker or stronger? And here's where the Stoic wisdom becomes practical. Every day, you and I face 100 tiny moments of choice. The flight is delayed. Someone cuts you off. You get rejected. Life doesn't go your way. These moments, they're your training ground. You can choose to fight reality, or you can choose to align with it. You can rage against the storm, or you can learn to sail within it. That's the Stoic way. In not giving up, not giving in, but standing firm in what you do control, your character. So let's break it down. You don't control the outcome of your efforts, but you control the effort. You don't control how others treat you, but you control how you respond. You don't control the randomness of life, but you control how you interpret it. That's everything. That's your superpower. But here's the twist: most people never claim that power because they're too busy chasing the illusion of control elsewhere. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine life is a river. Some people try to dam the river to stop it from flowing. Others try to swim upstream, exhausting themselves. But the Stoic? The Stoic learns to ride the current not because they're weak, but because they're wise. They know the river will flow no matter what. They don't waste energy resisting it. They use their energy to steer their own vessel, their thoughts, their values, their choices. Now let's turn the mirror on ourselves. How much of your energy, your precious, limited energy, is being spent on things you can't control? Be honest. Is it worrying about the future? Obsessing over approval? Regretting the past? What if you could reclaim that energy and redirect it inward into growth, gratitude, resilience? This is the Stoic secret to stop worrying. It's not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. Clear enough to see that the storm outside doesn't have to become a storm inside. You are not the weather. You are the sailor. The illusion of control, how letting go leads to greater power than holding on ever could. The irony is almost poetic. The more we try to control life, the more out of control we feel. Why? Because control is seductive. It makes us feel safe, gives us the illusion of certainty. But like a mirage in the desert, the closer we get, the more we realize it was never real. And that illusion, this belief that we can micromanage the universe, is the very thing that fuels our anxiety, our frustration, our suffering. You felt it. I felt it. That tightening in the chest when things don't go as planned. The sleepless nights spent replaying conversations, rehearsing outcomes, worrying about what might happen. But what if I told you that letting go doesn't mean losing power? It means gaining a power that's deeper, quieter, and infinitely more resilient. Think about it. When we cling, we suffer. We grip tightly to a relationship, a job, an identity, a version of the future we've built in our heads. And when reality doesn't match that vision, we crumble. But what if we could approach life with open hands instead of clenched fists? What if we could accept that we never had control in the first place, and that was never a problem? The Stoics taught that the only true control we have is over our own minds. Everything else, our health, our wealth, our reputation, even our loved ones, are on loan from the universe. That's not pessimism, that's clarity. And in that clarity, there's peace. Let's take a hard look at our everyday lives. We plan meticulously. We schedule every hour. We set goals, track progress, optimize, hustle. And yet, how often do things still go wrong? A flat tire on the way to an important meeting, a sudden illness, a layoff, a breakup. Life doesn't ask for our permission before changing course. We can scream at the sky, or we can learn to dance in the rain. The Stoics didn't deny emotion, they refined it. They understood that while pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And suffering begins the moment we demand that life be anything other than what it is. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful people you meet aren't the ones who dominate others, but the ones who remain calm when everything falls apart? That's not weakness. That's mastery. That's someone who has stopped fighting reality and started cooperating with it. They've lost the need to control the uncontrollable. But that's where their strength comes from. And yes, you can develop that same strength. Not by pretending you don't care, but by caring about the right things. You can't control whether someone likes you, but you can control whether you act with integrity. You can't control the outcome of a risk, but you can control whether you acted with courage. You can't control the chaos of the world, but you can control the order within your own soul. We've been taught the opposite. We've been told that success lies in mastery of external things, that happiness is a result of achieving, acquiring, winning. But the Stoic flips that script. They say, success is living in harmony with nature, not nature as in trees and rivers, though that's part of it, but nature as in the way things are. The natural laws of change, of impermanence, of unpredictability. When you accept those laws, instead of resisting them, you don't become passive, you become powerful in a new way. You become unshakable. Let me ask you this, what would your life feel like if you truly believed that nothing external could disturb your inner peace? What if your peace came not from controlling life, but from flowing with it? Can you imagine that kind of freedom? This isn't some abstract philosophical exercise. This is a way of living, and it starts with a radical shift. Stop trying to fix the world. Start mastering your mind. Every time you catch yourself spiraling in worry, ask, is this within my control? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, then act with courage and dignity. That's it. That's the formula. Simple, but not easy. And yet, it's the only path that leads to real peace. The warrior of the mind, building inner strength through acceptance and resilience to live like a Stoic, is to walk through fire and not be burned, not because the fire doesn't touch you, but because you've trained your mind to withstand the heat. It's not about avoiding pain or pretending that life doesn't hurt. It does. Life will cut you, test you, and break you open. But the Stoic understands that suffering isn't what happens to us, it's how we interpret it. And in that gap, between event and response, lies the greatest power we'll ever know. This is the battlefield of the mind. This is where the true warrior trains not with weapons, but with wisdom. Every day, life is throwing punches. Maybe it's a rejection. Maybe it's a failure that stings deeper than you expected. Maybe it's an unexpected tragedy that shakes your world. And in those moments, the untrained mind collapses. It panics, rages, blames. But the trained mind, the mind shaped by Stoic discipline, pauses. But it breathes, it accepts, and then it chooses. Not the path of least resistance, but the path of inner integrity. That's what it means to be resilient, not to be unaffected, but to be unbroken. To bend without snapping, to cry without losing hope, to suffer without surrendering yourself. There's something deeply empowering about this idea, because for the first time you realize that nobody else owns your peace. Not your boss, not your partner, not the economy, not even fate. You own it. And owning it means taking radical responsibility not for what happens, but for how you meet what happens. That's the real challenge. It's easy to be calm when everything's going your way. But who are you when the ground shifts beneath your feet? Who are you when the things you love are taken away, when your plans unravel, when your identity is questioned? That's the real test. And the Stoics didn't flinch from that test, they welcomed it. Marcus Aurelius, in the midst of war and plague, wrote to himself, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about that. He wasn't just tolerating obstacles, he was using them as fuel. Because every difficulty is a forge, every setback, a sharpening stone, every loss, an invitation to dig deeper into what really matters. And what matters, in the Stoic view, is not the comfort of the body, but the strength of the soul. So you become the warrior of the mind, not by escaping life's pain, but by standing in it with grace. You learn to say, "Yes, this hurts, but it cannot touch who I am." That's not denial. That's transcendence. And from there, from that place of stillness amidst chaos, you begin to live not reactively, but deliberately. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start being a master of response. And isn't that what we all want, to stop being tossed around by life and finally stand firm? The final freedom, why surrendering control is the key to unshakable peace. At the heart of every storm lies a still center, the eye, untouched by the chaos that swirls around it. That's what the Stoics aimed for. Not a life free of storms, but a soul anchored so deeply in truth that no external force could shake it. And here's the paradox: the deeper you go into Stoicism, the more you realize that the key to this unshakable peace isn't in grasping harder, but in letting go. Letting go of expectations, letting go of illusions, letting go of the desperate need to control what was never yours. And in that surrender, you don't lose yourself, you find yourself. We've been taught that control is power. But the Stoics knew better. True power lies in self-mastery, in the ability to stay calm in the face of chaos, kind in the face of cruelty, and courageous in the face of loss. That kind of power doesn't come from manipulating outcomes, it comes from aligning yourself with reality. And reality is this: you control very little. You don't control the weather, the traffic, the news, or how people treat you. But you do control how you show up, how you think, how you speak, how you act. That's your domain. That's your freedom. And when you learn to live fully within that space, you become untouchable, not because nothing bad happens to you, but because nothing owns you. So many of us are exhausted not because life is too hard, but because we've been fighting battles we were never meant to fight. We try to fix people who don't want to change. We relive mistakes we can't undo. We chase futures we can't guarantee. And all the while we miss the only moment we ever truly have, this one, right now. The Stoics called it living in accordance with nature, not nature as in trees and rivers, but nature as in truth, the truth of impermanence, the truth of unpredictability, and the truth of death. And instead of fearing these truths, they embrace them. Because when you stop resisting reality, you make peace with it. And when you make peace with reality, you make peace with yourself. Let me leave you with a question. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to control it? Not in a careless way, but in a deeply intentional way. What if you poured all your energy not into changing the world, but into changing the way you respond to it? What if you could walk through life calmly, knowing that no matter what happens, you will meet it with wisdom, with strength, with grace? That's the Stoic path. That's the secret. You control nothing except the most important thing, who you choose to be in every moment. Remember this: the storm will come. The waves will rise. But if your anchor is within, you will not drift. You will not drown. You will stand. And that, my friend, is the final freedom.